Hi, in this video I'm going to be looking at the if object, and this is used for using conditional sort of decisions. So it might be that we might want to decide if we want to do something or else. So it allows us to do these sort of decision making. So parts of our patch may work only under certain conditions. So the if statement has a sort of like an interesting syntax, which is slightly different to what we see elsewhere in Max MSP, and we can we use this $I1, and what $I1 means is the number received at input 1. So number received at input 1, and we'll do greater than 10 then 1 else 0. So we'll work through this sort of after we go. So what we should do is we should put in a couple of number objects. So we'll put in a number object there, and then we'll put in a number object here for our output. So we're going to be entering a number and then receiving the output. So what will happen if I lock this patch is I've got this number which is entered into this one, and then in this equation it checks this number. So $I1 is the input. Now if it's less than 10, so the number input is less than the number 10, it will output a 1. So when this changes, it will execute this line again. If that number received on the first input is less than 10, then it will output 1. If it's 10 or greater than 10, it will output a 0. So if we see here, if we've got number 1, that is less than 10. So any number that's less than 10 will cause a 1 to be output there. So if I make this 9, that 9 is less than 10, and so it outputs a 1. And then when I make it into 10, now is the input number SI1, is that less than 10? It currently equals 10, that's not less than 10. So then it outputs a 0. So the way that this if function works, coming back here, is SI1 is a number that's entered in this first input, and then it has a decision making part here. So, and we have got various sort of symbols that we can use. So this arrow there is less than. There is also, we could also do greater than. So now this patch will look at the number which was received in input 1, and if it's greater than the number 10, it will output 1, and in any other situation it will output 0. So now if I change this, so 12 is greater than 10, any number greater than 12 will cause this to go out, output a 1, and now, so as soon as, so 11 is a number greater than 10, so that would be 1. If we have 10, is 10 greater than 10? No, 10 is the same as 10, so then now it outputs a 0. So probably a more common thing that we can find is if we want to do something when our number is the same as a number. So what this expression does, if the number entered at input 1 equals means is the same as. So if this number is the same as 10, then it will output the number 1. If it isn't, if it's any other number, it will output 0. So if I lock this patch and enter a number 100, it will output 0. So unless only will output 1 when we've entered a 10. So if I reduce this down, all of these numbers, because they're not 10, it's not outputting. But as soon as I get to the number 10, it will output a 1, else 0. So all the negative numbers are like that. The important thing to remember when you're doing is the two equals is that if you forget to have one of the equal signs, this will cause the if statement not to work. So again, if I go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, this never actually works. So it's important to remember that you'd use two equal numbers. And then the opposite of that, the opposite of equal, is a exclamation mark equal, and that means is not equal. So if the number entered in input 1 is not equal to 10, then it'll output a 1, else a 0. So if I lock the patch, now the only time I will get 1 is when the number is not equal to 10. So if the number is 10, it will then equal 0. So that's the opposite of equal, equal. And there is another way of doing this. We can have extra inputs to our if statement. So the way we would do that is we need to include another input into this expression. So $I1, $I2, and then when I've done that, it adds another input here. So if I add another number and output there, so what this expression will do is it looks at when this left-hand channel changes, it looks at input 1, is it the same as input 2? If they are both the same, then it will output a 1. If they are not the same, it will output 0. So if I make this one 100, and then this one 99, our 100 is not the same as 99, so it will output a 0. It will only output a 1 if these two inputs are the same. So now they are both the same, it's actually outputting a 1. So if I could change this, this will only become 1 when the two numbers are the same. Now the important thing to remember is this if statement only will work if there has been a change here. So if I change this number, it won't actually work. It only changes when either it receives a number or a bang. So a way around that could be to add a button, and then the output of our second box goes into the button, and then this one goes into here, and now this forces it to look at both inputs when either one of those changes. So now I can change the right one with it sort of considering both. So that's a very sort of short introduction to the if statement.